So we are beginning today Book 1, Canto 5, page 74. It begins with an extraordinary line where Sri Aurobindo, in the persona of Ashwapati, tells us this knowledge first he had of time-born men. Now, what does that mean? It means that he had the highest knowledge of anyone who was ever born on earth, because he uses the word time-born men. And in order to help us in our sadhana, Sri Aurobindo had to take birth as a human, come down to the earth where he would suffer all the problems that we had, all the pains that we had. And so he took birth in a Bengali family, and we know that his father did not allow him to learn his native language, Bengali. His father only wanted him to speak English. And so when he was very young, his father sent him to school in England, where he barely had enough to eat. So this first line is very critical on page 74. Here's a book if you would like. Because this knowledge, what knowledge? The knowledge of the entire universe, of the cosmos, of the highest planes of existence, even of the supramental, which we won't hear about too much later in the book. This knowledge first he had of time-born men, admitted through a curtain of bright mind that hangs between our thoughts and absolute sight. He found the occult cave, the mystic door, near to the well of vision in the soul. Now, the well of vision in the soul is the psychic being. And he found immediately the psychic being. It's a phrase that was coined by Sri Aurobindo. It didn't appear in English before that time. And what he explains to us is that the psychic being is in the center of the chest and directly behind the heart. It's very, very important to know, because it's the psychic being that grows with us through every birth and death. And it is the psychic being that takes all that we have learned positively in one life and carries it to its place of rest, a place of rest that we all go to. But it's interesting, Sri Aurobindo says, for the most part, we stay there only for 2 years and come back and take another birth. So there was Shankar, the great yogi, said that we have had already 1 lakh of births to be here at this time. 1 lakh of births. So I've only read a few lines, but that's the way we have to go deeply into Savitri, because every word is precious. Every word has a power because it's mantric poetry. And then we come to this new line, and entered where the wings of glory brood. Now, when I did the lexicon of an infinite mind, which contains all the words and terms in Savitri, I asked many of the, shall I say, more advanced disciples to give me definitions of various terms. And so I asked Alok, and Alok said, the wings of glory are the arms of love that hold creation. This refers to the supramental consciousness that folds the lower finite creation in its limitless expanse under the wings of this omniscient knowledge and omnipotent power. And then Madhav Pandit said, Ashwapati steps into a veritable wonderland of the glory of God. The glory is pictured as a huge bird whose wings are brooding over the new creation to come, just as a hen broods over its eggs. These wings enfold and incubate the new truth in the offing. So let's go through those 6 lines again. This knowledge, first he had of time-born men. So he has this knowledge of the supramental. He doesn't tell us yet, but he has it. Admitted through a curtain of bright mind. Well, our mind always has many curtains over it. Very often, Sri Aurobindo calls them veils. Page 74, the beginning of Book 1, Canto 5. And these veils that we have that keep us from realizing the divine within ourselves are veils of family, life, education, work, environment. All kinds of veils are in front of us. So he was admitted through a curtain of bright mind that hangs between our thoughts and absolute sight. So absolute sight is when we have the third eye. Sri Aurobindo calls it the third eye, and many other yogis have known about it. It's the eye that perceives without the necessity of thinking. It sees immediately the truth of everything. So then he found the occult cave. Now Sri Aurobindo talks about the occult, and he says it is not the sense of the occult that we have in the West. It simply means something that is hidden from us that we have yet to realize. He found the occult cave, the mystic door, near to the well of vision in the soul, and that's the psychic being, and entered where the wings of glory brood, in the silent space where all is forever known. So this is very powerful, because in that space, which is the supermind, everything is known, and there are no dualities. In our life here, in the ignorance as Sri Aurobindo calls it, which is body, life, and mind, we see everything in terms of the duality. Hot and cold, good and bad, love and hate, and we could go on and on. In the silent space where all is forever known, indifferent to doubt and to belief. So you see here, he's risen far above. There is no longer doubt that attracts him or troubles him, and there is no longer belief that troubles him, because he has gone beyond it. He has risen so much higher. Indifferent to doubt and to belief. Avid. Avid means to have an ardent desire for something. We're avid for this. Some people would say chocolate. So, avid of the naked real's single shock. Well, the naked real is definitely a shock. If we rise above the ignorance, we first enter the spiritual realms of consciousness, and they are as follows. Above the ordinary mind, there is the higher mind, and that is the first level of the consciousness. Then there is the illumined mind, which sees so much more. Then there is the intuitive mind, which is a mind that has a light that shines on everything and opens us to everything. And from the intuitive mind, we get to the overmind, which is the highest plane just below the supermind. But in the overmind, there is still duality, the possibility of duality. Not so great as down in the ignorance, but still there. When we reach the supermind, there is only perfection, perfect beauty, perfect love, and perfect divinity. In the silent space where all is forever known, indifferent to doubt and to belief, avid of the naked real's single shock, he shore the cord of mind that ties the earth hard, and cast away the yoke of matter's law. Well, there is a cord of mind that ties us to everything. Mother calls it a silver cord. And that silver cord cannot be severed, cannot be cut, or we cannot come back to earth. Incredible. When Mother was in Algeria with Theon, he wanted to know the truth of the highest realms, and Mother did not want to tell him. And when she reached that highest realm, he cut the silver cord. But only Mother could repair it and come back to earth. He shore the cord of mind that ties the earth heart, and cast away the yoke of matter's law. Now, this is so important, because when we talk about matter and matter's law, matter is basically inert. It's a lump of clay. It only becomes alive when energy enters into it. And in man's consciousness, he has been able to create so much out of matter. Just look at what has happened in the recent years. We have computers. We now have AI. We have cell phones that we never had before. We have so many new things appearing. We're going to different planets. We have telescopes that are telling us of new planets and galaxies that we have never seen before. So there is still a yoke. Matter holds us down. Let's take gravity, for instance. We are bound to gravity. But when we ascend into space, there's no gravity anymore. And they can walk many, many paces on the moon without any gravity. So, what does Sri Aurobindo say about matter? Because it's very important. And he tells us that matter is by no means fundamentally real. It is a structure of energy. Interesting. And he says, the creative energy in matter is a movement of the power of spirit. So the creative energy in matter is a movement of the power of spirit. Matter itself cannot be the original and ultimate reality. At the same time, the view that divorces matter and spirit and puts them as opposites is unacceptable. Matter is a form of spirit, a habitation of spirit. Matter is only so much mobile energy vibrating intensely into form. Now, matter is nothing when it's just lying there as clay. But what about the sculptor who takes it in his hands and makes a vase, a dish, a cup? He has changed matter, he has formed matter, and so the formless or the inert takes form. The body's rules bound not the spirit's powers. Now this is, of course, Sri Aurobindo speaking through Ashwapati. The body's rules bind our powers, of course. The body's rules bound not the spirit's powers. And then this extraordinary passage. When life had stopped its beats, death broke not in. Sri Aurobindo could stop his heart for minutes and bring it back to life. He dared to live when breath and thought were still. Thus could he step into that magic place, which few can even glimpse with hurried glance. Lifted for a moment from mind's labored works and the poverty of nature's earthly sight. Well, these are very strong lines because we're always laboring with our mind. We're always trying to figure out something, to research something, to learn something new, to read something new, to see something new, and we're always laboring with the mind, because the mind is incapable of unity. It takes different parts and puts them together and creates what it calls a synthesis. But it does not see, such as being in the planes of superconsciousness. Thus could he step into that magic place, which few can even glimpse with hurried glance, lifted for a moment from mind's labored works and the poverty of nature's earthly sight. All that the gods have learned is their self-known. Now the gods that we worship are typal beings. It means they are perfect in their own sphere of existence, but they cannot evolve. Only man can evolve, because he has taken birth in a human form, in a human body. So all that the gods have learned is there in that perfect existence, self-known. There, in a hidden chamber, closed and mute, are kept the record graphs of the cosmic scribe. Now, this needs some explanation. The record graphs of the cosmic scribe are the Akashic records. And the Akashic records hold everything that has ever happened on the earth. Everything we've done, good and bad, are kept in the Akashic records. And one can access those records. The Tibetans had a system of a gigantic room filled with thousands and thousands of drawers. And if someone wanted to learn about science, there were hundreds of drawers that he would open and begin to learn. Or about physics, etc. So the record graphs of the cosmic scribe, that is the man who writes everything down, are kept there. The hidden chamber is the place where the Akashic records are kept. It's not an obvious place that we can easily access. It's a hidden chamber. And we can only go into it when we open to the higher realms of consciousness. Otherwise, it's closed to everyone. And there, the tables of the sacred law. Now, a lot has to be talked about concerning the law, because the sacred law is above all laws. But Sri Aurobindo tells us, and I will read to you some things from his writings. Law is nothing but a mode or rule of action. It is called, in our philosophy, not law, but dharma, holding together. It is that by which the action of the universe, the action of its parts, the action of the individual is held together. Then in the human cycle, he says, law is necessary for order and stability, but it becomes a conservative and hampering force unless it provides itself with an effective machinery for changing the laws as soon as circumstances and new needs make that desirable. So briefly to explain, all cosmic and real law is a thing not imposed from outside, but from within.
Narad, she's asking you to read this one.
Okay.
Law is nothing.
Law is nothing but a mode or rule of action. So, as we rise higher in consciousness, the law changes. The laws of our life in the ignorance, let's take morals, for example. The laws of morality do not exist in the higher realms of consciousness. So I will read that again. Law is nothing but a mode or rule of action. It is called in our philosophy not law, but dharma, holding together. It is that by which the action of the universe, the action of its parts, the action of the individual is held together. If we had no law here, and in many places of the world there is no law. There's war, there's hatred, there's killing. So law holds us together at the level that we are on. That's our dharma. When we ascend, that dharma changes. We have a totally new dharma, a new law. And as we get higher and higher, the law conforms to that level of experience. Now, then I have to get back to this page. And there the tables of the sacred law. There is the Book of Being's index page. That is so very interesting. What is this Book of Being? This Book of Being? Well, I asked a lot of people this question. And Alok gave the answer. The Book of Being is the eternal Veda, secret within the very heart of creation. The index page refers to the guide, to this inner knowledge which can be discovered by diving deep into the heart of creation or climbing to its highest peaks, as did Ashwapati, the king seer. Now, when one has ascended, one can discover the hidden symbolic meaning behind everything, as an index page that discloses the contents. Again, that is the concept of the Akashic records. Now, when I asked Amal this question, he said, Ashwapati enters the occult cave. When he enters it, he finds among other wonders, hidden from the outer consciousness, an orderly guide as an index to all the mysteries of existence, mysteries such as the Rig Veda offers, through its system of ordinary objects, like those we find in outer life, especially cows, which were a very important part of life of the Vedic people's day-to-day career. Now, Nolini said, we used to go to Nolini and sit in his little office exactly opposite him and ask him these questions. And he was always very terse. So here's his definition of the Book of Being. The book of fundamental existence, static existence, the truth that exists. So now we just read about there is the book, or there is the Book of Being's index page, the text and glossary of the Vedic truth is there. And there, the rhythms and meters of the stars, significant of the movements of our fate, the symbol powers of number and form. And we remember how important numbers were to Mother. When World War II was at its peak and things looked dim, Mother had the children collect flowers and bring them to her, and she would count them all. I understand it, I could be wrong, that each one saved a life. Let's carry on. There is the Book of Being's index page, the text and glossary of the Vedic truth are there. The rhythms and meters of the stars, significant of the movements of our fate. And of course, if one is well versed in astrology, one knows that there is an underlying truth to much of it. Not to all of it, of course, and not to everyone, and not for everyone, but there is an underlying truth. The symbol powers of number and of form, and the secret code of the history of the world. Again, we're back to the Akashic records. And nature's correspondence with the soul are written in the mystic heart of life. What does Sri Aurobindo tell us about life? Now, something very important happens here. He capitalizes words. And when I asked Nolini what the capitalization meant, he told me it was the essence of that word. So, what is life? Well, Sri Aurobindo has many, many sentences defining life, and I'll read just a few. Here is one from his social and political thought. Life itself here on earth is being, capital B, is being at labor in matter, capital M, to express itself in terms of conscious force. Human life is the human being at labor to impress himself on the material world with the greatest possible force and intensity and extension. Why do scientists spend so much time researching things that seem so difficult? Why do entomologists study the work of insects? I have been reading lately about the deserts being changed by the wool of sheep. It's on YouTube, and it's an incredible documentary. And others other deserts being changed by a certain bee that was found in old writings. And that bee loved salt. And so they spread salt over the earth that was already not able to hold moisture. And these bees made burrows and created alfalfa fields that are extraordinary today. So life is not only a play of forces or a mental experience, but a field for the evolution of the concealed spirit. And that is from one of Sri Aurobindo's letters on yoga. Now, his letters on Savitri are mainly the correspondence with himself and Amal and Narad to some extent. But his letters on yoga are answers to disciples and devotees all over the world. So I'll just read a couple more from letters on yoga. All life is a growth of the soul out of the darkness towards the light. All life, spiritual, mental, or material, is the play of the soul with the possibilities of its nature. When we study this life as it manifests itself upon earth, these are my words, with matter as its basis, we observe that essentially it is a form of the one cosmic energy, a dynamic movement or current of it, positive and negative. We see positive and negative at work always in our life. Look at two magnets, negative or positive. Look at the tree. The tree is already existing in the seed. How could it not exist in the seed? It has come from the seed. So it's a constant play of the force which builds up forms. And forms are essential in manifestation. Because in the transcendent, there is no form. Everything is absolute, perfect, immutable. It energizes these forms by a constant stream of stimulation and maintains them by an unceasing process of disintegration and renewal of their substance. So, Shiva is always destroying, they say, but at the same moment, he is creating. And nature is doing the same thing. Where are the dinosaurs today? Nature got rid of them. And she brought new animals and new experiences. Plants are evolving constantly. Being a horticulturist, I see it almost every day. New species coming, maybe blown by the wind, maybe attracted by bees. In thousands of ways, we see this new creation developing in front of us. But we also see the negative, because there are forces, unfortunately, that would not like to see the new creation, would like to maintain their power of negativity or their power of evil in some cases, which Mother talks about to us.